This week on Machinery Pete TV, collectibles are the name of the game at this Polk auction sale, including this popular Minneapolis Moline G1000. High-tech and timely support keep dealerships connected to customers. And this Gibson E now enjoys life as a museum piece.
Your machinery is a serious investment and at the heart of every farming operation. Some call it a passion. We're Machinery Pete TV, and today we'll cover everything from auction roundups to the classics to the latest trends and technology. Machinery Pete, the most trusted name in farm equipment.
Machinery Pete thanks these premier sponsors for their support. Sullivan Auctioneers. Let our team of professionals show you how to make your auction a success. Visit sullivanauctioneers.com. Well, folks, you love classic vintage muscle tractors? Then you're going to love our show today. We're in New Paris, Indiana for my good friend Dennis Polk's collector auction, and we're going to watch this very rare Allis Chalmers 220 front-wheel drive. They made less than 100 of these things, and folks, I think this is one of the first, if not the first one ever made. Online bidding last night was up over $50,000 online. Now, before we hop into the auction action, we got to throw it back to the studio, catch up on the very latest farm equipment news.
All right, thanks, Pete. I'm Clinton Griffiths. The world economy this year will suffer its worst year since the Great Depression of the 1930s. That's according to the latest forecast from the International Monetary Fund. The IMF says it expects the global economy to shrink 3% this year. That's far worse than its 0.1% dip in the Great Recession year of 2009. It predicts a rebound next year with 5.8% growth, but says prospects for a rebound next year are clouded by uncertainty. Just how big of a financial impact could the coronavirus outbreak have on agriculture? Well, the Food and Agriculture Policy Research Institute at the University of Missouri has come up with some numbers. Economists in a new report predicting the ag sector could see a drop of $20 billion in net farm income. Running the numbers, they say the COVID scenario results in a 5 to 10% reduction in crop prices and an 8 to 12% reduction in livestock sector prices. The report says much of the drop in corn prices can be explained by a decrease in ethanol production. And it says partially offsetting the drop in receipts is an increase in government payments. Speaking of ethanol production, Valero Energy announcing it is temporarily idling 8 of its ethanol plants and is reducing production at its remaining 6 ethanol facilities. The company saying it's in response to falling demand. There is some good news for agriculture. China bought more than $5 billion worth of farm goods from the U.S. last quarter. That's up 110% from last year. And according to custom data examined by Reuters, specifically, China bought 7.81 million metric tons of soybeans, and shipments of U.S. pork to China were up 168,000 tons. That's a whopping 640% increase from last year. That's it for news. Now let's look at some recent auction prices from around the country.
Hey folks, I'm here with Dennis Polk. Dennis, again, thank you for the invite to your
I'm glad you could make it, bud.
2-a-day pre-estate auction. I'm just interested, I know I've talked to you before about your family history with machinery. It goes back so far and it's wide, the Polk family. I mean, your dad got in the business.
Dad
was that?
started, Grandpa milked cows and we farmed, and then of course we farmed all the time too. Dad had kind of actually worked for a machinery dealer and was kind of, I guess you'd say, a partner for a while, and then they broke up and Dad started out on his own.
Well, what is it all these years of your whole life, Dennis, with farm machinery? What is it, if you nutted it down, that you love most about the business?
I think I think there's probably more than one. One is agricultural people. You know, we've been fortunate. They're the best. I mean, us farmers are the best in the world. They can say what they want, but, you know, there's a sense of community. You know, at the 4-H auctions and what have you, you watch a community come together. And the antique tractor world was almost all good people. You know, you get to deal with the salt of the earth. That, of course, like I said, I wasn't smart enough to do anything else, you know, other than farm and farm machinery. It's all we knew. So, you know, but we've been blessed unbelievable. You know, we've been able to make a living doing what we love.
All right, folks, you love Minneapolis Moline. This is for you. Denny, tell us about this G1000 here.
This one, again, is original, and to me, that's just such a big plus. We did put new tires on it and, you know, some odds and ends around on it, but it's just a super good original tractor, and of course, you know, it's a low production.
Right. Do you know ballpark how many G1000s?
40, I think.
40 of them, okay. Wow. And been getting a lot of interest in this?
Yeah. But the Vistas, I just think the Vistas are so neat. You set up so high on them, and the console and what have you. But
have you sold many of the Vistas or G1000s over the years?
Yeah, over the years we have.
How would you describe the Moline, Minneapolis Moline brand position for collectors versus, say, Allis or Internet?
Very strong. I think they're very strong. Now, some of the older units, I mean, this is a strong marketplace. I think that the used, you know, if you had a really nice UB special, something, but there's a lot of them. They built a lot of tractors, as did all the companies really back then.
Thank you for telling us about this G1000. It'll be, I know you have fun watching these sell to go to a new owner.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's not a nostalgia thing. When I had that first sale in '83, I shed a tear over a spoke flywheel D. And I remember getting up the next morning and I thought, that's an inanimate object that cannot reciprocate any sort of feelings, and I'm a fool to be like that. And you know, I think that's the best thing ever happened, because after that I could buy and sell them all, and people say, how can you let that go? No problem.
So online, $31,000, number 12106, going in the order.
Guys, this is probably my favorite. I've got here a book. We've done the restoration on this. I've got the book as we started. And just today, and we was talking about Machinery Pete, he posted about this sign. Somebody sent in a picture of the building that's got cat, John Deere, what have you on the end in Harrington, Washington, that sign came out of in the 1980s. So, I mean, it's full documentation. Guys, this dual branded stuff, of course, everybody gets excited about certain things, but this dual branded stuff, and the cat and John Deere only for just a short period of time did cat and John Deere go together.
53, 54, 54, 53,000, 53, it's two Badgers going on. Now 6. Anybody that on a $56,000? Anybody else? Now 57. I'm not going to listen to either of you tell me no from about 40,000 on. And 57, now I'm in 6,000. Last and final call, you want back in 57? 57, thanks for what you did. I sold it. $56,000, number 30 is your buyer.
Here are a few more items that sold on today's sale.
There's opportunity here to advance something once you buy it. $8,085, 85, last and final call, $8,085. I sold it. $8,000, number 23, going to the internet.
Get more from your seed bag by doing more with your seed bed. Learn how at caseih.com/seedbed. Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
planting pain this year rippling across the country.
We had about 5-6 days to plant and then got rained out.
Thanks to location, Brummet was able to get a crop in the ground. But last spring, things weren't adding up from the start.
The population wasn't coming up right, so we started checking things on our own, and we couldn't quite get it figured out why the insecticide coincides with the population on the seed. So we found out we had more of a problem what we could fix, so we called John Deere.
The Brummets called the dealer, getting a hold of the service manager, Brian Hardy.
He phoned in, his brother phoned in and just stated that the acreage in the field were mismatched with what the display in the tractor was saying.
An issue that could have cost the seed grower a lot of money.
So he knew something wasn't being calculated right, therefore it throws off the seed population. So with seed corn, very tight documentation, needed to know what kind of acres, what kind of population for the documentation standpoint with the seed corn company. So anyway, we had to make this right.
In order to make it right, Hardy jumped right in.
I was having a difficult time knowing where to navigate through the pages on the display. That's where, hey, it clicked that let's get a remote display access session going. I can see that display from here once he gives me permission. And we did that.
Seeing from the office exactly what Brummet was seeing in the field, discovering it was an issue with the dual beam radars in the belly of the tractor.
This unit either failed or wiring leading to it had failed, or we had a connection issue there.
It happened fairly quick. We didn't really have to shut down. After we knew what the problem was, we was able to switch over to another form of radar and keep running until they got back with the right part, and I was able to run.
Hardy says an issue that could have taken a day to fix.
If we hadn't have done the remote session, you could have had twice that much time in it pretty easily.
Hardy says it was his first time remotely accessing a tractor, a rookie who quickly turned into a veteran.
So it was a learning experience. I mean, for both the parties on the other end of the phone and me. So, yeah.
Welcome back to Tractor Tales, folks. This week, we're going to visit with a tractor enthusiast in Virginia who has a Gibson E. Stanley Hula Jr. found this one in Ohio and shows it off in his museum. There were two versions of this Gibson made, one with a wide front and one with a tricycle. Stanley says this tractor is fun to drive.
We're standing next to a Gibson E that was purchased, I think it was in Avon, Ohio, probably about 12 years ago. I went out there to buy a Gibson SC. The gentleman had this tractor, and after some conversation, money exchanged hands, and I came home with two. Now, he had another one that I would have preferred, and I want to say it was an I, but he would not part with that one. The SC was the D, and then they had the SC or SD. They were small tractors, and this one was the next one up in their lineup of horsepower. This is as I bought it. The gentleman that had it restored it, and it looked fine for the museum here. So I've left it just like it is. Haven't done anything to it. Haven't even put a new battery in it. It's going to stay here until either the museum is sold or it's just going to stay here as long as it needs to be. Have no plans of selling the tractor. It runs fine. It's a Wisconsin engine in it. It runs like a Wisconsin engine. Makes the old hay baler noise, and it runs fine. Once it gets started up, it runs fine. I ran around here quite a bit up until a few years ago when I stopped starting them. That would be the only thing that's not normal on is the lights. Otherwise, it's as it came from as it was manufactured. Now, they made two models of this particular tractor, one with a wide front end, and this one's a tricycle.
Machinery Pete TV, brought to you by Corvus Corn Herbicide from Bayer. Get an early season win against weeds with Corvus for end of season rewards.
This season, while work for you may have changed, our season is underway. American agriculture, farms on, for our family and yours.
All right, folks, now we're going to talk a little bit about the history on our feature item on the sale today. Dennis, this amazing Allis 220. Why don't you tell me about it?
Isn't this thing cool?
It is cool.
These muscle tractors and front wheels, you know, they was just getting started. There wasn't very many. This one's a 1003 serial number, and we've got it from some pretty good sources, it's the first one built, first front wheel. The 1004 was the first tractor that was actually marketed like through a dealership. 1, 2, and 3 was all basically experimentals, and they used them. Jeff called me, and we'd found this out in South Dakota, and they said it was #1, the first 4-wheel drive, and we did finally get it bought.
And here, this is really kind of a once-in-a-lifetime shot, kind of an experimental, one of the first.
That's right.
And they only made, was it under 100 total, 220s?
Of the 4-wheel drives, yeah.
What about the Allis Chalmers brand in general, would you say, Dennis, in terms of the collecting?
I think that era of tractor, it doesn't hardly matter what make we're talking about, but you know, the Deere, it seemed like Deere people started collecting earlier than a lot of them, and I think the Allis and that international club's huge now. You know, I think we've seen more people get more and more interest in it. And of course, the power, you know, this era of tractor, I mean, you look at a 1206, a 1950T, I can go on and on, but all of the makes built beautiful tractors. I mean, when they're done up, man, them things just, you know, just make you feel all warm and fuzzy.
They're made to work, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we don't have to put DEF in them, and I don't have to worry about all the electronics. You know, I can always limp home with a pair of pliers.
Yeah.
You know.
30, 40, 39, 40, 59, 40, 59, 40.
I had a guy actually tell me on the lot here today, he bought it was a 2+2 International from you a few years ago, and he said, you know, this spring it's been so wet, it still gets the job done almost better. So sometimes these older tractors, you buy them to collect, but you can still take them out and use them.
Well, a lot of these tractors, you know, a bat wing, an auger, any number of numerous jobs around the farm, you know, you go and try to duplicate it in a new one, and they start at 100 to 110,000 and go up. So when somebody says, oh, that's way too much money for this kind of a tractor, well,
it's all relative.
That's right.
97.5, and I'm sold. $95,000 good on the number.
Well, a fun little visual shout out to our friends in the great state of Illinois, folks. This is because I want to highlight a pair of tractors that came in last week to our MachineryPete.com website for sale by owner. Now, if you didn't know, you can list any of your equipment you're selling privately on MachineryPete.com. Just go to our website and look for the Sell Mine link. Enter your items, get them in front of our 6 million page views per month. Now, here's the first tractor I highlighted last week, a beautiful 1990 John Deere 4755, 3,312 hours on its second owner. Now, it was listed by Eric Freestad of Newark, Illinois, and Eric listed it for his grandfather, who was the seller. And he said, Pete, Grandpa bought this thing on a farm sale back in 2001. It had 1,400 hours on it. He said, Grandpa is pretty fussy about this tractor and all his equipment. Now, I took this listing and went to our Machinery Pete Facebook and Twitter and did promo posts. And within a day, folks, we had over 2,200 clicks on that for sale listing. Now, the other tractor from Illinois I want to highlight from last week was this amazing 1973 John Deere 4230. Over 8,600 hours on it, but completely restored by Andrew Conrad from Scales Mound, Illinois. Now, I actually met Andrew at an auction we were filming for our TV show about 5 years ago. Great young guy, and he did an amazing job on this restoration. And what it made me think of was this picture. Now, this was from our friends at Colgan Implement way back in the day in Wyoming, Illinois, in August of '72, when John Deere dealers around the country were doing the big release for the new 30 Series tractor. Hey folks, thanks so much for watching 7 years of Machinery Pete TV, and I gotta tell you, today's show might be my new all-time favorite. To watch this Allis Chalmers 220 experimental front-wheel drive sell for $95,000 shatters the record price. And how about that Caterpillar John Deere neon sign at $56K? Now tune in next week. I can't guarantee we'll have stuff like this, but you're not gonna wanna miss it either way. Machinery Pete thanks these premier sponsors for their support. Sullivan Auctioneers. Let our team of professionals show you how to make your auction a success. Visit sullivanauctioneers.com.